Aita for wanting to kick my longtime friend out of our group. Am I the asshole for wanting to remove my longtime friend from our group? I, 15 years old, female, and my friends, 15 to 16 years old, female, have become frustrated with our friend, 14 years old, female, whom we will refer to as November. She has been deceitful, disrespectful, and generally unpleasant to all of us. For background, we forged our friendship 5 years ago through our siblings and quickly became inseparable. Unfortunately, I later discovered that she is a pathological liar. Even regarding the most trivial matters, she felt compelled to lie. After enduring this for 2 years, I chose to cut her off due to my past experiences with confrontation. The following 2 years were incredibly peaceful, devoid of any drama. However, during the 3rd year, a mutual friend reintroduced us, and I opted to give her another chance. Earlier, she had mentioned in passing that she once had a crush on me when we were friends. I had assumed that meant she had moved on. As we rekindled our friendship and began spending more time together, I picked up on signs that implied she had feelings for me again, such as her sister filming me at her request, which turned out to be untrue but still raised my suspicions. Consequently, I distanced myself from her. At the end of the school year, I received a note from her, tearful, pleading for us to be friends again. This time, I resolved to remain merely acquaintances and limit our interactions to essential situations. Not even 3 weeks later, she approached me in the morning to reveal her self-harm, which I had not known prior to this. I offered her my willingness to provide comfort or a safe space for her emotions by inviting her to message me at night. Soon, I started receiving nightly messages about her bleak perspectives on life, and despite my attempts to provide different viewpoints, she refused to consider anything beyond her own perspective. As she offloaded her problems onto me, I grew weary and began to harbor resentment, feeling guilty for not being supportive regarding her mental health struggles and difficult family situation, thinking if I don't help her, who will? Eventually, she ghosted me, and I, exhausted from the situation, decided to allow her the space to handle her feelings without chasing after her like a child. Eventually, the problem seemed to resolve temporarily, leading us back into our old patterns. Moreover, she was significantly in denial about a situationship, whom we will refer to as Mary, that she was in and currently is experiencing, concerning someone she described as terrible and hateful, whom she has ghosted 12 times in less than 2 years. I genuinely feel for this girl, as November continually speaks poorly of her while also striving to convince everyone that she is the only one who comprehends Mary. However, Mary's mutual friends have made it clear not only that they share her frustration with November, but also that November has lied consistently about her. The most significant strain on our already fragile friendship emerged in early January, when November fell into a deep depression and stated that she simply wouldn't care if anyone in our friend group died. I was out with one of the group members, whom we'll call Eliza, another friend, dealing with the fallout from November's behavior when I received a message from November. She claimed she would no longer confide in me about her issues and declared that she had been in love with me for 2 years. This confession occurred despite her knowledge that I identify as asexual and aromantic. The problem was that she had already professed her feelings for me 2 years ago before we reconnected, which means the time gap was virtually non-existent. This revelation surprised me, but I continued to ignore her as best as I could. Eventually, I broke off contact, but resumed communication after realizing it wouldn't be fair to my friends for me to distance myself completely from her, and I missed our friendship. Initially, things were fine. However, as time passed, I recognized that none of her behaviors had changed, which strongly indicated that she still had feelings for me. This made me uncomfortable, as I dislike being deceived, especially by friends. Additionally, she has been extremely rude, physically hitting me and others within our group, but always downplaying it by claiming it is just a habit, without making any effort to change. She also mocks nearly everything I do, from my speech to any mistakes I make, openly admitting to her mockery, even in front of my family. The most egregious line she crossed came a few weeks after her confession. One of our group members, 14 years old, female, whom we will call Issa, has a very difficult home life and has struggled to cope, resorting to self-harm on multiple occasions. November typically positions herself as Issa's support, which has included threatening her with the loss of their friendship to discourage her harmful behavior, yet another troubling pattern that none of us had recognized in her tendency, as she insisted that this was the only way to ensure Issa's well-being, which is a significant misrepresentation. Regardless, our friend turned to November for support, but instead faced shaming, with November becoming angry that Issa would mention such a sensitive issue to her, later texting me in a fit of rage about it. The most distressing moment came when Issa's family learned of the situation. Her cousin chastised her over the phone, asserting that she had no justification to act in that manner and calling her foolish. November echoed his sentiments, agreeing that she was indeed a lazy, irresponsible individual who blamed her troubles on everyone else. She then expressed outrage when Issa confided in Eliza about this incident, prompting Eliza to remove November from our group chat. In response to the barrage of accusations leveled at her regarding Eliza's delayed replies and her ignorance of the event, November turned to me, someone with minimal involvement in the situation, aside from being informed via the group chat, and requested clarification, claiming she was unaware of the circumstances. I explained it was related to her comments towards our friend, and she audaciously inquired about what she had said, to which I advised her to inquire of herself before ignoring everything else. Her subsequent action was to go on a lengthy tirade to Eliza, insisting that her statements had been misinterpreted and daring Eliza to make assumptions about her feelings when she had never experienced such a situation. Throughout this rant, she repeatedly lied and dodged accountability, attempting to manipulate Eliza's words to make her appear as the villain, also trying to convince Issa to side with her to make Eliza seem like the antagonist. She also falsified claims that our friend was not significantly affected by her words. When Eliza asked Issa, she confirmed that she was, in fact, very hurt. Ultimately, Eliza grew exhausted with the situation, re-adding November, who then behaved as though nothing was amiss. For me, that was the final straw, prompting me to commit to distancing myself from her, as I found her behavior utterly despicable. As my friends and I discussed our various issues, particularly pertaining to Eliza and me, since we were the most affected by her actions besides Issa, I discovered that numerous acquaintances I had trusted or befriended were aware of her feelings for me, which at this stage had evolved into an obsession, as having feelings for someone for 5 years alongside getting involved with another person 12 different times is anything but a simple infatuation. Furthermore, these individuals chose to remain silent out of concern for her. We then took a closer look at all the people she claimed to detest or had deemed awful. Others who maintained friendships with these individuals insisted they were either kind or not as problematic as she portrayed. For instance, regarding her on-again, off-again situationship, November has frequently asserted that the girl is terrible, that nobody understands her as she does, and that she is the only person this girl would ever love. I considered it far-fetched and self-serving for her to believe she was the sole individual capable of capturing this girl's heart, particularly since they were only about 14 and far too young to have met their lifelong partner. Moreover, Eliza has a friend who has known the girl since childhood and consistently speaks about her kindness and wonderful nature. The same characterization applies to most others within her social circles, myself included, as I was her netball captain, and she has consistently demonstrated kindness and diligence. There are additional examples, but I acknowledge that this narrative has already grown excessively lengthy. My concluding point is how she trivializes her problematic behaviors as mere quirks. She consistently rejects the notion of therapy whenever it is mentioned in our group, which is frequently, given that some members of our group are currently in therapy, and one previously attended as well. She resorts to shouting about how therapy is not genuine, that it is ineffective, and that it does not produce positive outcomes, which is both unacceptable and insensitive. Whenever we attempt to address her behavior, she either evades our gaze, puts on a disingenuous smile, and says everything is fine or storms off and cuts off contact with us. When we try to share our grievances, she engages in one-upmanship, as though we are competing in a contest of trauma. Additionally, she has threatened Issa's younger brother with a knife as a joke, despite the fact that this child has already endured so much due to his family situation. She has boasted about stabbing a peer in the 7th grade and gleefully claimed she feels no regret for the incident. The most recent issue arose during a camp with classmates when she threatened another girl, with whom I used to be friends, whom she has expressed disdain toward, with a knife she had brought from overseas, later complaining to me about how the girl had become upset over a dull knife for no apparent reason. So, am I the one at fault here, and more importantly, what should we do? Summary of her actions and behaviors, as this entire account is quite extensive. She is a blatant hypocrite. She is obstinate. If things do not go her way or if she is proven incorrect, she often storms off. She consistently attempts to overshadow the frustrations and vents of others. Her behavior revolves entirely around her needs. She has threatened self-harm when she feels she is being ghosted or confronted. She threatened Issa's 10-year-old brother with a knife in jest. She pulled a knife on a classmate during an argument, issuing multiple threats. She is a pathological liar. She essentially harasses her romantic interests. She often refuses to behave considerately. She blatantly disrespects others' opinions. She ghosts individuals, then becomes upset when they do not pursue her. She instructed others not to befriend Mary until she felt supported by her, direct quote. She attempted to shift blame onto the girl. She threatened with a knife after the girl's brother reported her carrying a weapon on a trip. She has stabbed someone and does not feel remorse for it, despite the fact that although the victim may have been unkind, he was still only in 7th grade, and stabbing is never an acceptable course of action. Story 2. Am I the a-hole for setting boundaries with my cousins and trying to stand firm on them? I will attempt to keep this brief, but there is a considerable amount of drama involved. My cousins are in their late 20s to early 30s and are sisters, while I am 21. We will refer to the older one as Sussy and the younger one as Eliza. I have never been particularly close to Eliza. Even when we were younger, she did not spend much time with my sister and me. Sussy, on the other hand, frequently engaged with us, taking us to zoos and aquariums, particularly during my parents' divorce. I always assumed it was simply her desire to spend time with us, but recently, it appears that she perceives it as if she rescued my sister and me during that difficult period. In October 2022, I became engaged to my husband. I was hesitant to inform Sussy, given that she had married earlier that year and tends to become a bit envious, for lack of a better term. I knew she wouldn't be happy about our impending marriage, but ultimately, I decided to share a picture with all of them, including her, and if she didn't like it, that was her issue. My husband and I tied the knot at the courthouse in November of that same year. Initially, we had planned for a small wedding, so the only guests were my parents, my husband's parents, my sister, my husband's 2 younger brothers, my stepfather, and my grandparents. We didn't invite any friends or extended family. After the courthouse ceremony, we had a small gathering at our home with family, and that was all. This is where the chaos began. Following our marriage, we were understandably thrilled. I shared a post on my Instagram story showcasing my husband and me. The only distinction was that I remembered to block Sussy from viewing my story, while he did not. Sussy's husband saw my husband's story, and upon inquiring, Sussy became furious when she discovered the news. I am not entirely sure who she contacted for information, but my mother informed me that Sussy was upset she had to find out via social media. Eventually, I sent a text to everyone clarifying that we had married at the courthouse, but intended to host a larger wedding in the future, which would include everyone we wanted to invite, Sussy and Eliza included. Sussy was so angry that she turned Thanksgiving at my grandparents' house into a nightmare. She entered looking incredibly dejected, irritated, and in tears. I greeted her, but kept my distance because I wanted to avoid the drama and was eager to share my wedding photos and talk with everyone, which I never got to do. The situation escalated to the point where my mother and aunt had to intervene and get Sussy and me separated after dinner for a discussion. I was open to this conversation, but I didn't feel it was necessary for the entire family to be involved. During that discussion, my aunt deemed me immature for not informing or inviting the family and insisted that if I want to make adult decisions, I must face adult consequences. Though annoyed by that remark, I let it slide and explained that it was our decision, it was planned quickly, and no one would have been able to attend anyway. Hurtful comments were directed at me, but I don't remember them clearly. I mainly recall Sussy witnessing my distress and starting to smile while I cried. Frustrated, I left the room. Later, I asked my mother if she noticed Sussy's reaction, and she said, "Yes, she likely enjoys knowing you're hurt just as you hurt her. It's not right, but you know how she is." I will skip the details, but over the next year or so, Sussy continued this behavior. We eventually had a conversation where I explained my reasons for planning the wedding so quickly. She blamed me for everything. I have apologized to her more times than I can count, yet I have never received an apology in return. I eventually decided to block her on Facebook and Instagram. Naturally, she was upset and informed my grandparents, who reprimanded me for my actions, questioning why I did it and insisting it would only create more drama. I expressed to everyone that they were enabling her behavior, which is why she felt justified in acting this way. Eventually, others began to address her actions. Sussy, however, seemed indifferent and unwilling to change. Recently, things had seemingly settled down. I have both Sussy and Eliza on Facebook and Instagram. During a recent family dinner, I attempted to ask Sussy a question, but when she didn't respond, I thought she simply hadn't heard me, so I asked again. Still receiving no answer, I turned away and remarked, "Okay," while shrugging, my tone revealing slight annoyance. Eliza then chimed in, stating, "I don't think she heard you," and responded to my question. Sussy admitted, "Yeah, I didn't hear you," to which I replied, "It's fine." Overall, I did not view this entire exchange as a significant event. Later, my mother informed me that my sister had spoken to Eliza after everyone departed and expressed her disbelief regarding how rude I could be. I felt irritated, since my sister could have approached me directly to share her opinion instead of discussing it with Eliza, and my annoyance had actually been directed at Sussy, not Eliza. I talked with my mother and therapist about establishing boundaries, as I am usually proficient at doing so, but struggle to maintain them with family when they react negatively. I finally made the choice to remove and unfollow all three of them on Facebook and Instagram: Sussy, Eliza, and Sussy's husband. In the past, Sussy would react to my posts with anger, believing I was making passive-aggressive remarks about her, which contributed to my decision to limit their access to me. That same day, Eliza texted me inquiring why I had unfollowed her on Instagram. I found it slightly unsettling, since one would need to actively check my profile to notice this change. I explained that it was a personal decision and that I am setting boundaries, hoping she would understand. She claimed it appeared as though I did not want her to be part of my family, which was fine with her. I reassured her that this was not the case, that I cared for her deeply, and that I wanted to maintain our connection. Social media was less significant to me than spending time with family in person. She remained displeased, but mentioned that she would respect my choice. I then expressed my desire to connect and meet more frequently rather than just online, but I never received a response, which I somewhat anticipated. Currently, I have noticed that Sussy has blocked me entirely, which does not truly bother me, but does strike me as somewhat humorous given how this whole situation seems exaggerated. I am concerned, however, that it might lead to a repeat of previous issues with my grandparents, as I feel uncomfortable going to their house, where Eliza stays, for fear of being scolded. Additionally, Eliza has deactivated her Facebook account on multiple occasions, and I have never expressed anger about it. I usually consider that she must have her reasons. Furthermore, Sussy and I do not have a close relationship. I used to reach out to her to see how she was doing and even invited her to a flea market to spend time together, but I typically received short responses. In person, I mostly feel ignored, which my grandmother has acknowledged as upsetting for her as well. As for Eliza, we have never been close. Our most significant interaction involves exchanging small texts about mundane purchases, such as something bought on Amazon. However, we do not see each other socially. In fact, Sussy and Eliza tend to spend more time with my sister and converse with her more than they do with me, so I do not grasp how my absence on social media would make any significant difference. Story 3. Am I 25F, at fault for dating the guy 27M, my friend used to like? For context, my boyfriend, 27 years old, male, and I, 25 years old, females share the same nationality and reside in North America. I was the first to relocate here with my parents, followed by my boyfriend, who moved with his family 3 years later. Initially, I was not particularly interested in him and did not attempt to befriend him at all. During the first 2 years of my time here, I formed close friendships with 3 individuals, and we spent nearly every day together. Around 2017, one of my closest friends developed a strong bond with my boyfriend. They became the best of friends, communicating through video calls and texts day and night. Prior to my boyfriend's arrival, my friend had already been conversing with another guy for nearly a year, during which he had been trying to win her over. After experiencing some kind of fallout, my friend and that guy ceased communication and went their separate ways. It was at that point that my boyfriend and friend became very close. I realize this may seem perplexing since I've referred to my boyfriend as my boyfriend, but at that time, I wasn't friends with him. I knew him but hadn't formed a connection. Returning to my friend and boyfriend, they spoke daily, and it almost seemed as if they were dating. However, my friend reassured us that they were just best friends, but confessed she was beginning to develop feelings for him. We were supportive of this because she was no longer in contact with the other guy, which minimized the chances of conflict, and based on what I had gathered, my boyfriend also had feelings for my friend, leading us to believe they might date or were already dating. Things took a turn a few months later. My friend and boyfriend were still in touch almost every day, but she informed us that she had resumed talking to the other guy. She clarified that she and my boyfriend were merely best friends and that she was now dating the other guy, while my boyfriend was also seeing other girls at that time. Fast forward to mid-2023, my friend continued her relationship with the other guy, making it approximately 5 to 6 years. Throughout those years, my friend would occasionally express to us her ongoing feelings for my boyfriend, even though they remained best friends. While they weren't in constant communication, they were still aware of each other's lives, but according to my friend, she limited their conversations out of respect for her boyfriend. During the latter half of 2023, my boyfriend and I began conversing more frequently, starting from an unexpected question and evolving into daily chats. I assumed our relationship would remain platonic, as my boyfriend is known for his friendliness. I attempted to end our conversations, not wanting to become accustomed to someone to talk to daily. However, the exchanges persisted until my boyfriend revealed his interest in me. He admitted to noticing me for quite some time, but hesitated to approach me, stating I appeared intimidating. I, too, had noted his presence around 2022 after he ended his previous relationship and found him quite attractive. He began pursuing me, and by the end of 2023, we officially became a couple. After 5 months of dating, I started hearing whispers that my friend had told my boyfriend's sister, who is also a close friend, that my boyfriend was her greatest love. She also questioned why I was dating him after I had previously said I would never date anyone my friend had liked. I chose not to act on those rumors, trusting that my friend would not betray me, especially considering she had been in a committed relationship for 5 to 6 years. Another 3 months went by before my friend and I met up. She wanted to discuss the rumors, mentioning she had not made any such claims about my boyfriend being her greatest love. However, she did bring up what I had previously said about not dating anyone my friends had dated. Additionally, she disclosed that 15 days before my boyfriend and I became official, they had a conversation, although it wasn't just the two of them. They were accompanied by my boyfriend's brother and her brother. She recounted a private discussion in her brother's car, summarizing that my boyfriend assured her he wouldn't want to be a rebound if they ever dated. According to her, she ignored him that night because she was uncomfortable knowing he was pursuing me. I listened without interrupting, and once the conversation ended, I reviewed my messages with my boyfriend from that particular night, where he stated he was going to bed early. I also checked his conversation with my friend from that night, and what I uncovered shattered my trust in both her and him. The messages revealed they had been conversing the night before and continued to do so even after their private talk. To me, if she was truly ignoring him in the car, why was she texting him previously and even after returning home? That night, I ended my relationship with my boyfriend. However, after discussing the situation with my parents, who advised me not to be upset about their conversation since we weren't officially together at that time, I took a few days to reflect and figure out how to navigate the situation. Eventually, we reconciled and questioned those who were present that night. My boyfriend's brother and my friend's brother both recounted similar accounts, but diverged from my friend's narrative. Now, my boyfriend and I continue our relationship, but I have distanced myself from my friends, as no one in our group thought to inquire about my side of the story. They simply took my friend's word for it. Therefore, I chose not to explain my perspective. So, has it been my fault for dating someone my friend had feelings for years earlier, even though they never officially dated? Did I violate the girl code, despite the absence of an actual relationship or confession between them?